Good morning, everybody. How are you guys doing today? Okay, this is where I normally ask you to do it again, but more loudly. Actually, I'll just skip that. So it's so good to have you here today. I hope you're having a great time at Ignite. Today, we are going to talk about the Common Data Service and building enterprise apps easily with it. But before we dig into that, I want to take care of a couple of housekeeping items. Number one is we've had this amazing set of slides rotating in the background. We want to give you an opportunity to meet with our PowerApps champs in London. You may have noticed in your seat when you came in, you have a PowerApps champ trading card. Collect them all. And on that, there's a set of instructions on how you can enter a contest to win a trip to London to meet with the PowerApps champs and learn more about how other people, in a kind of almost like one-on-one type setting, how they've been able to change really their careers by using PowerApps, the Common Data Service, and other things. The other housekeeping item that I would ask is we are being live streamed and recorded, and so one, be well behaved. And number two, if you have a question, we'll take some time for Q&A at the end. I would ask that you come up to one of the microphones so that we can record your questions. If you don't do that and yell it out from your seat, what I need everybody else in the room to do is to remind me to repeat the question so that everybody else can hear it. Sound good? Cool. So let me switch over to the presentation real quickly, and we'll get going. And while I do that, let's get to know each other. Okay. So my name is Ryan Jones. I'm the Group Program Manager for the Common Data Service. And so my team is responsible for the API down for CDS. It is what sits underneath and powers Dynamics 365 customer engagement, as well as what powers Common Data Service for PowerApps. We also just so happen to handle all the PowerApps scenarios from the API down. And so when I show you things today, you'll probably notice that I look at it kind of like a back-end guy, like a web services guy. We're going to be looking at the Common Data Service and the building blocks that it provides you to build your applications. Okay? I came to the PowerApps and Dynamics org about a year ago. Before that, I've been working in Azure. I built a little thing called Azure Resource Manager there. So I've kind of been a part of the whole cloud revolution at Microsoft. Now, I want to get to know you guys as well. But I can't have each one of you hop on the microphone and introduce yourself. That'd fill up our 75 minutes. And so what I'd like to do is do a brief survey where I can find out kind of everybody's background, and maybe if the moons of Jupiter align, I can kind of aim or target our content today to best suit your needs. So how many of you guys are Dynamics people? Oh, wow, a lot of you. Okay, cool. How many of you are SharePoint people? Also a lot of you. How many of you are neither of those? Okay, shout out. What are you? BI developer? Okay. Yep. Okay, awesome. So I think we'll be able to touch on things that'll be of interest to all of you. For the folks that are hardcore Dynamics people, some of the things that you'll be seeing today are familiar to you, okay? So when we talk about entities and fields and business rules, these are concepts that you will have seen before. But what I would encourage you to do is look at how these things are starting to light up in the new PowerApps Maker experience. Sound good? Sound fair? We ready to go? Awesome. So our agenda today, I'll do a brief introduction to the Common Data Service as well as our strategy around it, how we think it fits into PowerApps, how it fits into Dynamics. We'll talk about common scenarios and patterns, how we see people using the Common Data Service to build their applications. We'll talk about the different flavors of CDS instances that are available, as well as the common data model. They will then dig into entities and fields, so how you define the structure of your data. We'll talk about relationships and option sets. We'll talk about calculated fields and rollups, followed by business rules. We'll then pivot into the UX constructs that you use to build model-driven applications, forms, views, dashboards, charts, and applications. If we have time, I have a few extra goodies that we'll throw in there as well. We'll show how to extend dynamics with custom code and plugins. And then finally, we'll talk about implementing business logic with Microsoft Flow. Now, let me ask a quick question. How many of you memorized the abstract for this session? Okay, none of you? Okay, I want to give a quick call out. There was an item in the abstract for the session around virtual entities. We won't be covering that today. That was, let's call it a copy-paste error. Plus, we have something like 10 demos to cover in the next 69 minutes. And so I want to make sure that we have time to cover everything else. If you want to chat virtual entities, we can do so afterwards. So how about we get into some content? Sound good? And so, how many of you have seen this slide before? All of you, darn, because this slide amazes me. I joke that normally, we won't have beer at the parties because we spent all the money on this slide. So we see that we're digitally transforming businesses through a couple of key points, 3 points in particular. Number one is we have to be able to gather data. Of course, being the Common Data Services guy, I think this data should go into the Common Data Service, but that's just me. But the apps, the Canvas apps and the model-driven apps that we'll talk more about later, are really the way that we can gather this data more efficiently and effectively from our users on a day-to-day basis. From that data, we are able to synthesize and derive insights that help us understand what is working well, what is not working well across our organizations. And from those insights, we are then able to drive action to improve return on investment, improve our efficiencies, improve our customer satisfaction, so on and so forth. And at the core of all these items are data and intelligence built around that data. And of course, once again, me being the Common Data Service guy, I like for that middle thing, or I like to think of that middle thing as the Common Data Service. Make sense? Sound good? And so when we look at that data and intelligence, that can be built on top of the Power Platform. The Power Platform being comprised of 3 primary entities. Number 1 being PowerApps, which includes the Common Data Service, 2 being Microsoft Flow, and 3 being Power BI. Make sense? Over the top of that, we're able to support with the Power Platform a broad set of applications that you guys may know, such as customer service, sales, marketing, talent, project service, so on and so forth. And what we're going to do today is really talk about how this can also support your app. Because with CDS and with the Power Platform, what we're doing is we're bringing to you the exact same platform that we use to operate our own dynamic sales, service, marketing, talent businesses on a day-to-day basis. And so, what is the Common Data Service for Apps? In one sentence, it is the system of record for business-critical transactional data, okay? If data is important and relevant to how you operate your business on a day-to-day basis, we believe that it should be in the Common Data Service. Now, okay, that's great, that's what it's supposed to do, but like what's actually in it, right? Well, don't worry, there's an animation for that. At the very bottom of the Common Data Service, there is data. I guess that's kind of obvious, right? Because it is the Common Data Service. Over the top of that, we provide a way for you to define a set of business rules and business logic. That is then all exposed through a set of APIs that support a set of forms, views, dashboards, so on and so forth, that allow you to actually build your experience over the top of that data. Are we good so far? I see lots of cameras. By the way, these slides will be published eventually. It's awesome to see you taking pictures because that lets you know that it's a helpful slide, but I don't want you to wear out your arms. Of course, maybe this is the Ignite workout. We do this all night, and we do this during the sessions. So let's talk about the types of apps that you'll build. So for those of you that have raised your hand when I said, are you Dynamics people? The first types of apps that we see people building or working with, I guess you aren't building. Really what you're doing is you're customizing applications, right? You didn't like exactly how the sales app worked or how the service app worked, and so you went and modified a form here, added an additional field there, those sorts of things, right? But then we also see other types of applications. We see what we call satellite apps, where these applications interact with the primary Dynamics apps. However, they provide a net new scenario bolted on or set out to the side of the primary application. And then we see a third class of app emerging, which is the fully standalone app. These are apps that don't really touch kind of the core sales, service, or marketing stacks whatsoever. Make sense? Any questions here? Maybe I shouldn't take questions. Okay, and so we have two paths forward when we build applications on top of the Common Data Service. Number one is we're able to build Canvas applications. And so if you guys have attended PowerApps sessions in the past, Canvas applications are the pixel-perfect, WYSIWYG, drag and drop, I want this control here bound to that data there type applications, right? They allow you to build very, very beautiful applications, but they aren't necessarily responsive, and you have to do a fair amount of work to define how your different screens navigate between one another, okay? In the model-driven apps world, what we do is we define our data, and then we describe how that's displayed over the top, and all of the aspects of navigation and interaction between those different experiences is handled for us by the semantic meaning of the forms and views and dashboards that we create, as well as the relationships that exist between the data. Okay? And so if I were to visualize this for you, or just provide a one-sentence explanation of this, Canvas apps are really UX first, then bound down to the data, while model-driven apps start with the data and then build up to the UX. And so for today's discussion, we're primarily going to be discussing model-driven apps, if for no other reason than there are many, many other sessions here at Ignite on how to build Canvas applications. And so since we're getting started with data, I wanted to talk about this because we see lots of people that when they start to build applications, starting with a data-first approach, they see this blank page and they get kind of scary. How many of you guys have to like write a spec at the office sometimes and you get a little freaked out when you see that blank page? None of you? No? Okay, thank you, an honest person out there. How many of you, oh, that guy, how many of you just don't write specs anymore? Okay, now we're being honest. Okay, well the thing is, you don't have to start with blank pages. They're scary. We know that. We get that. And the reason you don't need to be scared is because you have the Common Data Model at your fingertips. And what is the Common Data Model? The Common Data Model is a modular definition of standard entities that represent commonly used concepts and activities across business and productivity applications. That's a mouthful, right? Good thing we didn't have to put that on my business card. And so when we think about how the Common Data Model is structured, we start at the bottom with what we call App Common or Application Common. This has like the base entities that we think you're going to end up using for practically any business application that you want to create. Over at the top of that, we have Foundation Common, and above that, the most commonly set of schema that people then add on is CRM Common. You may have heard this if you're old hat Dynamics user, not old user, that's not what I meant. But these are the things, we used to call it CRM Prime, and it contains the entities that are core to the sales, service, and marketing solutions. And then over the top of that, we then have schema packs that handle very targeted scenarios, okay? So one of the things, if you guys were here for CDS1 discussions last year, one of the things that's different about Common Data Model now is it's actually much more modular in nature. And so we don't necessarily need to ship as much in box or as much in Application Common as we had to historically. Okay? But the big benefit to this, once again, is Microsoft has been building business applications on top of this platform for a long time, and many of those entity and schema definitions that we have are available for you to use out of the box. You don't have to go home and say, hey, what should the schema for a contact look like? Because in Dynamics today, we have literally terabytes upon terabytes of contacts. We know what they look like, and therefore we've defined that schema for you. The other benefit to this common schema is that different ISVs can build applications that target those specific schemas. So we end up building a bit of an ecosystem around those common data schemas. And so when you provision an instance or an environment for building your application on the Common Data Service, we have two flavors. One is what I just call a base instance of CDS, and so it includes App Common and App Common only. It includes relatively little in it out of the box. Or you can go provision a Dynamics instance, and this includes that full graphic that we discussed earlier. An important thing to note, and this is really more of a point-in-time statement, is you cannot yet convert a CDS app's base instance into a Dynamics instance. okay? It's something that we're working on and will be doable here in the not too distant future, but it's not there today. So there's an element of choose your own adventure when you're provisioning your CDS environment. So if you need all the dynamic stuff, you go with the Dynamics instance. If you just need the CDS stuff, go with the base instance. And so today, just to show the simple, basic version, we're going to be doing all of our work in the base instance type. So we're not going to have all the extra CRM prime entities today. And so now let's get into some of our building blocks. So the first thing that I want to talk about are entities. What is an entity? Well, to give you a definition, it is an item with properties that are tracked. Beautiful, glorious definition, I know. If you've worked in SQL or Access before, you can think of this logically as a table, okay? Examples of this in the system would be the contact entity or the account entity. Every entity has a display name. This is what we use in forms, so this would be account or contact. We then have a plural display name that's used in views, so accounts or contacts. Okay. We then have a name, which is invariant and immutable, that is used by the APIs when you interact with these entities. Now, granted, many users never turn around and interact with our APIs, or many developers never turn around and interact directly with our APIs, but we do have an invariant and immutable name used in those APIs. We have a description that is used for contextual help, so the little popover help bubble. And then finally, we have fields. Let's talk about fields. So what is a field? A property that is associated with an entity. Once again, if you've worked with Access or you've worked with SQL, you can logically think of this as a column, okay? An example of this would be a first name or a home phone number. Now, every field has a display name, once again, used in forms. It also has a name that's invariant and immutable that is used in the APIs to reference that specific field or attribute. There's a data type that is used for persistence as well as intelligent presentation of the data, and I'll come back to that here in a moment. We have the ability to define whether or not an attribute or a field is required. One important note is required here refers to whether or not it is required through the UX. If you interact with the system directly through the API, that is not actually enforced. Key reason being why we see lots of people shuffling data in and out of CRM systems, and sometimes the data that's coming in and out of those systems is lower quality, and so therefore lots of fields need to be nullable or need to be not required. We then have an option to configure whether or not an entity is searchable, a description that is used for tooltips and for help, and then a set of data type specific constraints. So if this field is an integer, you would be able to specify a max and a min. Or if this was a string, you would be able to say, hey, this thing can be only so long. And so with fields, we support a broad set of data types. And so we're now going to read through them one by one. Not at all. But as I said earlier, this helps us understand in the system how to efficiently store the data. The other thing that's kind of cool about these data types is they also enrich the semantic meaning around a given value. And so, for example, let's compare a ticker symbol with just text. Granted, you could represent a stock ticker with text. However, when we know that something is a stock ticker, what that allows us to do is, in our experience, we're able to make it so that if you click that item, we do a cool little thing in that it pulls up the information for that particular ticker, like a quote for that stock for the day. Make sense? Yes? No? Or similarly, like with currency versus it just being a number, we're able to understand, oh, this thing may need to be converted between different currency types. Okay? So the other thing that's interesting to think about here is when you're defining your fields on your entity, think about like, what does this data mean? And the richer or more specific you're able to be in your use of data types, the richer your experience will ultimately be. And so we're going to move into our first demo, but before we do that, I want to give you a brief introduction to our demo scenario. And we're going to be walking through this scenario all day, so I want to make sure that we're on the same page. And so this is a mission-critical demo app with some of the most demanding customers you'll ever meet, namely my two daughters. Okay, good. Somebody laughed. Thank you. And the thing is, we seem to have this problem around our house. where Audrey, my 2-year-old, soon to be 3-year-old, says, I want cupcakes, or more accurately, want that. She abbreviates these things. And then my 5-year-old, Hollis, says, Daddy, where are my cupcakes? And so what we will be building today is, well, maybe not a mission-critical application, but a cupcake request app, where my girls can come in and request cupcakes from mommy and daddy, okay? So a little bit of a fun scenario that we can walk through today. We can tell some jokes at my family's expense, and we'll get through this together, all right? And so let's go into entities and fields. Now, sometimes it's a little, what's the word? Intimidating to go through and define or describe a data model. And so I actually asked Hollis, I thought this might be outside of Audrey's skill set, Hollis, what are the 2 important components of any cupcake? And you know what she said? Cup and cake. Now, I'll let you guys give me a better answer. When you think about cupcakes, what are the 2 most important elements of a cupcake? The first one is? Oh, I sense a frosting versus cake debate in the room. Of course, we all know that frosting is the most important part of any cupcake, followed by the cake itself. And so, in our application, we're actually defining 2 entities, one for cake and one for icing. And so, let's take a look at that. Let me unlock my machine and move over. And so what I've done is I've gone into the PowerApps portal and I've gone to my data tab. One important note, observe that I am in the model-driven mode in the PowerApps portal, okay? These things will look a bit different if you're in the Canvas authoring mode. And so what you see here is a list of all the entities that currently exist in my environment. Now, you'll notice that there's this column over here called type, and it says standard or custom. The ones that say standard are the items that came from the application common solution that's present in the base CDS instance. The ones that are labeled custom are the ones that I have gone in and added as a part of my various demos and investigations and those sorts of things. And so I can even go here and I can say, you know what, I only want to see the custom entities so that I'm able to find things a little bit more quickly, okay? So now let's get to the simplest entity ever, cake. And so our cake entity actually only has one attribute of note, and that's the primary name. This would be like white cake, yellow cake, chocolate cake, funfetti cake, so on and so forth, okay? And so I set that the primary name is required, and just for good measure, I make sure that it's searchable so that people can readily search for the best cake option for them. So very, very simple entity, literally only has one required field, okay? So anybody can do this. It's so easy, even a program manager like me can do it. And so now let's look at another entity. This one's slightly more advanced. This is our icing entity. And so similar to our cake entity, it has a primary name that is of data type text. It's custom, it's required, it's searchable. You'll note here that invariant name that's used for API access is shown right here. But we've also added another attribute or field to this, which is dyeable. Display name of dyeable, we'll see that we also use that as our schema name. And the data type here is 2 options, where I allow you to select whether or not an icing type is dyeable or not. And we'll talk a little bit more about this, but this was ultimately important to us because we found that certain types of icing, such as chocolate, do not readily accept food coloring. And so we wanted that to be represented in our icing entity. Everybody good? Makes sense until this point? Haven't shaken your world too much? Okay, cool. Pretty simple example, but you know, want to walk through it together for completeness. And so, with that in mind, I now want to talk about relationships. And relationships describe to us how one entity is related to another. There are 3 different types of relationships that exist in the system. One is one-to-many, where one entity has a relationship to many others. We have many-to-one, which is the reverse. One thing to be aware of is sometimes in the system we call these lookups. That confused me for a little while, so hopefully you'll find that as a helpful little way of resolving that question in your mind. And we also have many-to-many relationships in the system. Any given relationship can be either required or it can be optional. It's up to you. And we have detailed documentation that I link to there at the bottom of the page. And so, if I were to show you what relationships look like in our application, we have 3 relationships. Now, we're going to start looking at the cupcake request entity now. And so I'm going to go over to my relationships tab, and we'll see that a given cupcake request has 3 different types of relationships. A request has a relationship to the cake, because when someone creates a request, we need to know what cake type it should be. It has a relationship with icing, because we want to know, of course, most importantly, what type of icing will be on the cupcake. And so if I open this up, what you'll see is we're actually able to visualize that, hey, I have a relationship between the icing entity, 1, to many cupcake requests. And I define which field is going to be used in that relationship, okay? And of course, I can specify whether it's required or not. I've already done that. And then finally, I have a relationship with contact as well. Now, one of the things that's interesting about contact is I didn't create contact. Contact already existed in the system. Contact is one of the entities that comes with app common, okay? And so what I'm starting to do here, remember how earlier we talked about the 3 different types of apps that you'll build? Customization versus standalone versus satellite apps? Well, my silly example might have started out seeming like a standalone application, because Cupcake Request app doesn't exactly sound like an enterprise mission-critical scenario. The reality is, even in my simple little app, it made sense for me to use some of the entities that already existed out of the box. And so what I'm doing here, of course, is creating a many-to-one relationship between, or I'm sorry, one-to-many, depending on how you read it, from my contact to my Cupcake Request entity. Now, there's one other thing, because we're doing pretty well on time, that I wanted to show you. We also have the support for what we call option sets in the platform. You can think of option sets as being like an enum of sorts, or something that would be used to populate a drop-down menu in many of your experiences. And so I have one of those using for icing color, so that when we do use food coloring in our icing, we understand which colors are available. And so here I'll see it's called icing color. It uses, the data type is an option set. The option set that is used is color, and I can edit the option set here, and we can actually see the options that are available. Just for giggles, is there a color missing that someone would like to see? Teal, there we go, teal, save. And we have now expanded our option set. Wasn't that easy? And now I will select done. So that concludes our demo on relationships. And so now what I want to talk about are calculated fields. Now, if you've worked with SQL in the past, you might think of these as kind of like computed columns. So this is a property that is derived from other properties of an entity. Now, one special thing about calculated columns in Dynamics is we are able to use relationships in the context of our computed columns. Some examples of these, just simpler examples, might be full name, where I use string concatenation to concatenate the first name with the last name. Or for an arithmetic or math example, gross margin, where I'm able to take, my, gross margin, calculating, profit, cost, so on and so forth. Sorry, guys, it's like way early in the morning on the West Coast, and so I'm not totally woken up right now. And so the structure of any calculated field is if, and then a set of conditions with actions, and then else, a set of conditions and actions as well. And so we have an example here of using calculated fields that I'd like to show you. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Cupcake Request, and then I'm going to go to description. So one of the things that in my experience I noticed is if I'm wanting to have a nice friendly description of what the Cupcake Request is for, it was a little difficult as a user to go through and look at my cake type and my icing type and say, oh, this is an order for a white cake and chocolate icing cupcake. And so what I've done here is defined a calculated field which will calculate that value for me. And so if I go and look at my calculated field definition, you'll see here I don't actually use a condition because I always want to calculate this field. And then in my action, what I do is I set the description attribute on the entity to concatenate a space, and then the cake's primary name, cupcake, with icing's primary name, icing. And so this would say a funfetti cupcake with chocolate icing. Okay? And so this entity can then be used in any of my various experiences as well as accessed through the APIs. Now, past calculated fields, we also have roll-up fields or aggregates or aggregations. And so definition would be an aggregated value which is grouped by a relationship. And so examples of this would be for a given account, what are the sum of open opportunities? Or for a given account, what is the oldest case that is open? This is very, very helpful when you're looking to drive next best action in your system, so because you want to know in a service scenario, hey, for this customer, what is the oldest case that I need to take a look at? Or, hey, as I'm looking to manage my sales pipeline, which account has the most open opportunities? Of course, this could also be weighted opportunities, so on and so forth. You can get really fancy here. And so for any roll-up field, there's a source entity, a related entity, as well as the aggregation that you want to run. Now, in our demo application, we had a problem. Our 2-year-old was requesting too many cupcakes. And so what we wanted to do was expand our schema on the contact record, so extending the common data model to have a custom roll-up field, which was cupcakes requested by contact or by user, so that we could see who had requested how many cupcakes. And so if I go to my cupcake request, I'm sorry, not my cupcake request, my contact entity, once again, this is the out-of-the-box contact entity, and for simplicity's sake, I'm going to change my view to custom, so only show the fields that I've added. You'll see that I've added a field called cupcakes requested. It's a whole number, and so if I were to click here, it opened my roll-up, which I have right here. And so what this does is it says, for each contact, sum the quantity across cupcake requests. And so this shows me all the cupcakes that have been requested by my 2 girls. Makes sense? And so this way we're able to see to it that, I don't end up, I don't know, making my girls sick to their stomachs by providing them with too many cupcakes at the end of the day. Of course, the reality is they just lick the icing off of them anyway, so we're probably safe. And so on top of this, so let's see, we've defined our entities, we've expanded those entities with fields, we have defined the relationships between different entities, we have calculated fields on specific entities, we have created roll-up fields or aggregations across entities, but there are other more advanced types of business logic or business rules as well. What is a business rule? A predefined action executed upon specific conditions. So an example of this would be, that example is not correct. I apologize, that's a copy-paste error. An example of this, let's actually go with the example that we're going to show you in our demo, which is we have certain types of icing that don't readily accept color, right? They don't accept food coloring. However, we had lots of issues where someone would say, I want chocolate icing, but I want it to be purple. And funny thing, no matter how much purple food coloring we added to the icing, it still kind of looked, brown at the end of the day. And so we wanted to avoid that from our system. And so what you're able to do is define a set of conditions that target a particular entity and set of rules with Boolean logic around how to combine different rules, and a set of actions to take when those particular conditions are met. This could be make a recommendation. This could be lock or unlock a field. It could be set a field value, set a default value, make something required, hide something by changing its visibility. And so let's take a look at how I defined this business rule for our simple cupcake application. So if I go back to my cupcake request, and then I browse to business rules, we'll see that I have an attribute on my cupcake request, or I'm sorry, not an attribute, a business rule called is icing dyeable. And so if I pull that up, here I have my business rule. And so I start off with a condition, is icing dyeable? And so what it does is it takes a look at an entity, it looks at the particular field, icing is dyeable, And if that equals no, then what I'll do is I'll set a field value. And specifically what I do here is I set my icing color equal to none, okay? So if someone comes in and says, hey, I want chocolate icing or strawberry icing, and then says I want it to be purple, we'll switch it back to none so that they won't be confused or disappointed when they receive a cupcake fulfillment where our chocolate icing is not purple. So we've done all of these complicated things now, from entities all the way up through business logic, but from there, how do we actually, like, if you wanted to interact with this data programmatically, let's say you wanted to build a custom application that talked with your data in CDS. Under the hood, we provide two API scaffolds. One is OData, the other is SOAP. Now, SOAP, just so that we're clear, is deprecated. However, we do see lots of people using it. We very, very strongly encourage you that if you're building net new code that interacts with CDS, that you do so using the OData interfaces. And so what I'd like to do is show you a basic console application that interacts with our CDS instance. And so I know this is a 200 level session. We're going to pull up Visual Studio for just a little while. Don't worry, there's not a coding exam at the end of the discussion. People always say, never show Visual Studio in a 200 level session. So please, don't get angry at me for it. We have a very, very simple app, a console app. Let's call it the hello world of interacting with CDS. Okay, it's like 36 lines or so. So console app, so inside of our main function, the first thing that we do is CDS uses Azure Active Directory for authentication. And so as a result, our application has an application ID as well as a redirect URL as configured in AAD already. From there, we provide the request URI, which tells my code how to communicate with Dynamics. And specifically, if you're familiar with how to structure OData queries, the first part here is telling me what Dynamics instance to connect to. From here, this is saying, hey, use the API, the version 9 API more specifically. I want to retrieve contacts, and I want to select the attribute called full name. From here, we're going to do, I probably shouldn't call it ADAL magic, but for me, ADAL is just a little bit magic. I just use the methods they provide, and it more or less works for me. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create some authentication parameters. And it does that by creating from a resource URL. Okay, that URL is this guy right here. And what that does is that provides me with two critical pieces of information. One is the authority, and the other is the resource for which the ticket token needs to be issued. I create an auth context, and from that, and then an auth result, which actually gives me the bearer token that I will need to use to communicate with the OData API. I instantiate an HTTP client, and then I slap on the bearer authentication header along with the access token that I receive from up here on the auth result. I then send the request. This is a GET, once again, against this URI. And then if it's successful, I then do the kind of lazy thing and just say, hey, take the JSON, parse it, and dump it out to the console. And so if I run this application, which I've already done, what we'll see is it has successfully pulled back an array of values which has the full name of the contacts that exist in my system, Hollis and Audrey. Now, you'll notice that there's a few other things that come back here. One is the OData context, the other is the OData eTag, followed by the unique identifier in our system. We always decorate our OData responses with a set of additional annotations, okay? So just don't be surprised if you get, you notice I only asked for full name. I got a little bit more than just full name, okay? So expect that as you interact with our OData APIs. So now I want to talk about, at this point we've done all this stuff where we've kind of defined all of our business logic at the lower levels of the system, but now we want to start exposing that through a user interface. And so unlike when you're building Canvas apps, we're not going to go through the process of defining a bunch of screens, defining a bunch of navigation between screens. That's not really how this works. Instead, what we do is we define a specific set of user interface components, and the system handles navigation between those based on its understanding of a particular UI component combined with a specific relationship that exists within the data model. And so the key components or building blocks that you'll use when you're doing this are forms, which are used to create, read, or update an instance of a specific entity, views, which are used to display lists for a specific entity, charts, which are used to visualize specific entities, types, fields, or attributes, dashboards, which display a panel of charts and data streams, which come from views, and then finally app modules, which is a collection of forms, views, charts, dashboards, and or web resources used to create a cohesive application. And so if we double click into these, there's a way better slide to take a photo of here in a moment. So form, a page that displays fields of a single record for a single entity. And so you'll see that this page is composed of number 1, an entity, 2, a collection of entity fields, and then 3, you'll notice that this shows 1 record, okay? And so this would be like when I view a single cupcake request, or when I view a single cake type, or a single icing type. Make sense? Yeah? Well, views. Definition being a page that displays fields from multiple records for a single entity. So this page type is composed of a single entity, multiple entity fields, and multiple records. And so this is used when I show a list of cupcake requests, or a list of cakes, or a list of icing types. And then dashboards, definition, a page that allows interactive filtering of data from one or more entities. And so this contains many entities, perhaps, entity fields, as well as records, many records. And then finally, apps, or these are also known as app modules. So what are these? This is a functionally complete set of forms, views, dashboards, also charts that are in those dashboards, and web resources, because we'll have time to cover web resources as well while we're here today. And so, let's take a look at these. So first, and we'll do this primarily on cupcake requests because it's the most interesting entity in our demonstration. So I'll go to forms, and you'll see there are multiple forms in the system. These different forms get used in different contexts. So we have a main form, we have a form that's used in quick view, as well as a card form. And just for the sake of simplicity, we'll take a look at our main form today. And so inside of my form editor, I can do things such as change the general layout of this screen by inserting multiple sections, inserting subgrids, inserting spacers. But the bulk of what you do here is actually more around deciding which fields for a given entity are going to be displayed. And so remember, this is what will be shown when someone goes in to read a specific entity. This will be shown when someone goes in to edit a specific entity. This is what will be used when someone goes in to create a specific entity. And so there's certain things that show up by default and you can't remove, such as primary name and owner. But everything else here, actually, I added to this form definition. So something that's very important to keep in mind is just because you add something to your entity and fields does not mean that it will automatically show up in your forms or views. You have to go through the process of adding those fields to the forms or views. And so you'll see here, I've added my contact, quantity, cake, icing color, and description fields. Note that some of those are calculated fields, some of those are just regular old fields that are on that particular entity. Now, I can also go through and take a look at my views. And so there are also a set of views that are pre-generated for any given entity that's defined in the system, but I need to go through and customize those. And so I have this particular active cupcakes view open right here. And so the most common thing that you'll be doing in this screen is you'll be customizing which fields will be shown as columns in the view. And so I can go through and I can add columns to say, oh, I want these additional entities to to be added to this view. Additionally, from that, you can reorder the columns on the view by dragging them right or left. You can then customize attributes of a particular property, such as say, hey, I want this thing to be very narrow versus this broad. You can also do fancy things with web resources there. But generally speaking, you can think of this as how do you define a data grid for showing multiple entities of cupcake request type. There's also a few other items where you can define the default filtering criteria as well, so that you can choose when someone navigates to this view what information will be shown. Now, if I go back here, now before we go into dashboards, we have to define charts. And so let's pull up the charts that I've defined. And really what I've done here is I've defined a number of different ways that we can slice and dice my views over the top of my data. And I'm very, very curious about what types of cupcakes need to be baked based on different pivots. Really, that being, I need to know what to go buy at the grocery store. So what kind of cake mix do I buy? Oh no, folks, we don't bake from scratch at our house. What kind of icing I need to go purchase, and what kind of food coloring I need to purchase. And so if I take a look at one of these chart definitions, I'm not going to walk you through all of them because they're all quite similar in their composition. I am going to call this chart quantity by cake, and what I'm going to do is I am going to sum the quantity of the different cake requests by cake type. And so I've specified here a view to use for previewing my chart. And so if I scroll down, we'll see, oh, funfetti is apparently a very popular cupcake flavor, followed by yellow cake. And so I have similar views defined by icing type as well as icing color. Now that I've defined these dashboards, I can go to my entity and I can see the dashboards that have been created for that specific entity. I've only created one. I call it my cupcake dashboard. It seemed like a logical name. And so if I open up that cupcake dashboard, it has a name, it has a view that it's associated with, it has a set of filters. So in this case, I only look up cupcake requests that were created in this corner. And then what I can do is I can drag and drop multiple charts onto this. So you'll see I have my quantity by cake, my quantity by icing, and my quantity by icing color. You will note that because of the business rule that we defined earlier, we see lots of cupcakes have no icing color. We also have purple. Purples and pink as well is very popular at our house. And then you can see, the different icing types folks have requested. And then down below, I define data streams. Here what I'm able to do is define a view that will be filtered based on how I interact with these charts up here. And that makes this an interactive dashboard. Okay, so at this point I've created my forms, I've created my views, I have created my charts, I have created my app modules. However, if I went to my app player, what would show up at this point? Nothing, because we have not yet put these components into an application. And so now what we should do is we should create an application which includes all these different assets. And so if I go right here, I have an enumeration of the apps that I have built inside of this environment. Now, one thing that's interesting and that you might want to take a note of is you have the ability to, within the same environment, create multiple apps. This is actually quite fundamental to how we make the flywheel, or I call it the boat propeller, that icon, or that cool slide we show at the beginning. This is actually how we make this work, because you can have different apps that interact with the same set of data, so that you have a single version of truth across your different business applications. And so I have defined my cupcake app here, and so I have open in the background our app designer. And so what I am able to do here is I can then add artifacts that are either application-wide, or I can add assets that are specific to an entity. And so in this case, what I have done is I have added things related to interacting with the cake entity that we defined first, the icing entity, which we discussed second, the contact entity, which we extended, and then the cupcake request entity that ties them all together. And for each of these, I have included a specific set of forms and views. So you'll see here, I've loaded just my main information form, same thing across the board here, so I won't walk you through each of those. I've included the primary, the active, active cake, active contact, so on and so forth, view for each of the entities. I have added the 3 charts that we talked about earlier, quantity by cake, icing, and icing color, and I have included my cupcake request dashboard. Now, one other thing, because yeah, we've got time, that you can do is you can extend your experience through custom HTML and JavaScript as well. And so I had a scenario where I wanted users to be able to perform kind of like a proprietary search. And so what I did is I wrote that up through what we call a web resource. A web resource is HTML or JavaScript files that can be embedded in an app module. And so let's take a quick look at the two web resources that I've created. I'll pull up VS Code. And so within that, here's my HTML document. You can tell that I am not, how many of you are web developers? Uh-oh, I need to duck for the rotten fruit that's going to come my way. Sorry, guys. But I have a very simple HTML document here where I pull it, a few things of note. I pull in a JavaScript library that is needed to get the Dynamics context for me to interact with the different Dynamics JavaScript SDKs. I then have my JavaScript that I've written, and then I have a very simple form that includes a text box, a button to submit for that text box, and then 3 divs, one for showing contact information, one for showing cake information, and one for showing cupcake request information. Now, if we look at the JavaScript that I wrote to do this, the meat of this guy right here is the get contacts function. The first thing I do is I use XRM utility to get the global context for interacting with XRM via the SDK. I then retrieve the value of my filter criteria text box. I then use the XRM Web API method to retrieve multiple records. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say get contacts, filter where it contains first name or other criteria that are defined here. So what I'm doing is I'm building in JavaScript my OData query. Once that is done, if I have records, then I return them and convert into a table. And I'm not going to show you that function because you will quickly laugh me off the stage. And then I do that for, for cake types and cupcake requests as well. Okay, and so what this allows me to do is this allows me to embed arbitrary HTML or JavaScript in my CDS-based model-driven application. And so this gets added to my application via the sitemap. And so I'm going to open up my sitemap here. And so in my sitemaps have a specific hierarchy associated with them. The highest level item is an area. In this case, I've creatively named this the cupcake area. And then within an area, you can have multiple groups. And so here, I really only had a need for cupcake group. I put everything underneath it, and then under that you have sub area. And this is what actually ends up mapping to the views or the web resources that are related to these items. And so you can see in my sitemap, I've included cupcake requests, icing types, cake types, contacts, and my simple web resource. And so we now, let's see, 75 minus 22, however many minutes that is later, 50-something minutes later, we have a working application. And so let me fire up my application and switch over to my phone. And so here is how that app manifests itself on my phone. In fact, I can click here and you'll be able to see the variety of applications. Oh, that's not, oh, there it goes. The variety of applications that I have published in this particular environment. I have a cupcake app that we've been working on all day together, as well as the web resource app that I use for another investigation. So we'll open up our cupcake app and it'll load for me. And so within this, we can see the various items that I added to my sitemap, right? You can see the cupcake area, the cupcake group, and then the cupcake request, so on and so forth, okay? And so if I go in and let's take a look at our simplest entity, the cake types. And so you'll see I have chocolate cake, funfetti cake, swirl cake, white cake, yellow cake. So a few good options there. But you know what? Let's go ahead and add a new cake type. And so what I'll do up here is I'll go through and I'll select new. And so we'll now create a new cake type together. Now, what is a type of cake that was not in the list that sounds tasty to you? Red velvet. Done, save. And so I now have a cake type called red velvet. Now what you'll notice is, remember, we didn't go through and create a new screen. We didn't create navigation between my list and all this stuff. All those capabilities light up for you based on the data model that we described earlier. Now I can also go back, and I'll go back again, and you'll see our red velvet shows up now, created just a few moments ago. I can go back again, and now we can select our icing types. And so you can see we have a broad variety of icing types, including chocolate Bavarian, chocolate buttercream, cream cheese, strawberry, vanilla Bavarian, vanilla buttercream icing. But let's go ahead and create a new one here as well, just to show how quick and easy it is. To show how quick and easy it is. To show how quick and easy it is. Dimming over conference Wi-Fi. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, so what is a type of icing that was not in the list? Coconut. Okay, there we go. Coconut. Is that spelled right? Oh, close enough? Okay, and is coconut icing dyeable or not? Yes, it is. Okay, so we will say that it is dyeable. Note there, the control had a slightly different behavior. Actually, you probably couldn't tell. I just touched it, and it flipped between the two options, right? So the UX actually behaved slightly differently based on the specific data type that I used for that field. And so now I'll save that. And so from here, what we can do is finally go to the I should show you my contacts. There are our contacts. And so what you'll notice here is this shows information about my two contacts, my two very demanding but very cute contacts, as well as showing that, that roll-up field that we created earlier that shows me how many cupcakes they have requested over the last few months. And so what you'll notice is Audrey sure does seem to request a lot of cupcakes. But don't worry, guys. She requests cupcakes for her friends, so she doesn't eat them all herself. So let's look at active cupcake requests. We currently have two. One is for Audrey's birthday party. She turns 3 in October. And the other one's a welcome home party cupcake request. You can see that the requests are for 36 cupcakes and have fun-fed cake versus yellow cake. But you know what? I think what we need to do is we need to create our own cupcake request. And so what we'll do is we'll call this the Ignite Post-Session Celebration. And let's see, how many cupcakes do we need? I think we've got about 150 people in here. Does that sound right? Maybe, no, I'm sorry, my boss might be watching. We have 500 people in here. Now, what kind of cake would we like? Just yellow cake type out? Yellow, okay, yellow is popular. We'll go with that. What kind of icing do we want? Chocolate. What kind of chocolate? Buttercream or Bavarian? Bavarian, okay. She knows what she wants. And I will go with icing color. Now, the thing you'll notice here, remember, we have a business rule. So what I'm going to intentionally do is I'm going to pick pink. But what you'll notice is when I turn around and save this, it will flip the icing color back to none. Now, there are more elegant ways of doing this, but where it'd actually provide a tooltip, but just keeping it simple. So we're saving this request. By the way, guys, don't get excited. There aren't going to be cupcakes. We blew all our budget on, oh, you know what? There's actually one other demo I need to show you that'll explain something else. So that wasn't divisible by 6. We need a value that is divisible by 6. Let's just go with 96. I'll save. You'll see why we got that error here in a moment. And so we have a cupcake request, but don't get too excited, guys. There aren't going to be any cupcakes. We spent all the budget on that first slide with all the dots flying around, so we can't afford to purchase any cupcakes. And then the final thing I wanted to show you in the UX was my web resource demo, where this is my beautifully built HTML page. Here's my text box. And I can say, hey, you know what? I want to see if there's anything in the system that has this string in it, and I'll search. And so I dump out that information in the page. So, you know, it's raw, it's not pretty, but it shows how I was able to provide my own custom pages in this experience using HTML and JavaScript. And so, let's see, that completes that set of demos. So, The other thing that we haven't really touched on is, well, what about when I have business rules or business logic that can't be expressed declaratively based on the maximums and minimums of the fields or the business rules that we described earlier? Well, we do allow you to place custom .NET code inside of our execution pipeline. These are .NET classes which implement the iPlugin interface, and they're registered for messages against specific entities. So this would be like create or update or read or delete or custom actions against, you know, account or contact or cupcake request or what have you. Now you can place these at different parts of the processing pipeline, and you can do so synchronously or asynchronously. With synchronous placement, you can do this as a part of our pre-validation step. So before we even start a transaction. The second is pre-operation, which is where we've started a transaction, but before we've committed it. And then post-operation is after the transaction has been committed. Similarly, you can also register these plugins to be executed asynchronously, but when you do that, you can only select the post-operation action. However, here I would quote a movie that I don't think I can name for trademark reasons, but with great power comes great responsibility. When you build plugins and stick them into the pipeline, what you're doing is you're putting your code in the middle of how Dynamics or CDS runs. And so if you write code that is not reliable or that performs slowly, what will happen to your CDS application? It will perform slowly or not perform reliably. And so we see lots of challenges here. So my request would be, when you build plugins, please build them well. Of course, building them well is probably, you know, another 5-hour session that we don't have here at Ignite. So with that in mind, let's take a look at a plugin. And so you notice that error that you saw earlier when I went to create that cupcake request, and it said the request wasn't divisible by 6. Well, at our house, we have cupcake pans that only hold 6 cupcakes. And we were quite frustrated with, let's say, inefficiency of using these cupcake pans. Nothing worse than when someone requests 7 cupcakes and you have to dirty 2 cupcake pans for really no reason. Well, I guess for 1 cupcake, but that's not the point. And modular arithmetic is not something that's supported in our declarative business rules today. And so you can do this using a plugin. And so I have written a plugin in Visual Studio. Ooh, let me find it, hold on. There it is, Visual Studio Code. And so, very simply, I'm not going to go too deep into the weeds here. I implement the iPlugin interface in my cupcake class. I then implement the execute method. I then instantiate the tracing service, which allows me to trace and get debug information from my plugin as it executes. I then look to see if this particular entity in the target contains the quantity attribute. I retrieve that entity. I then retrieve the quantity field. I then trace to say, you know, hey, this is what I'm getting ready to do. I'm testing to see if the quantity value is divisible by 6. And if quantity mod 6 does not equal 0, then what I do is I build an error message that says the request for that many cupcakes is not divisible by 6. And then I throw a plugin execution exception. I then trace that and rethrow it in my catch block, okay? And so the way that that manifests itself is, as you saw, if I make a cupcake request that's not divisible by 6, we will present the user with an error that says, hey, you need to, you know, that number isn't divisible by 6. Now, arguably, I could have been more helpful and told them the number on either side of that for them to re-enter and update, because I couldn't remember the closest number to 500 that's divisible by 6. Just something to think about as you build your plugins. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is, so I've written this plugin, but just writing the plugin doesn't do anything. I actually have to register it with the service. And in my mind, this is actually more interesting than the code for the plugin itself. And so what I've done is I've connected to my CDS instance. And so what I'm going to do is what you do is you register those binaries, right? And you register them against specific entities and or actions. And so I am going to open up this right here. And here what you'll see is I've registered this for the create message against the cupcake request entity. I bind it to the cupcake class that we just looked at together. It generates a step name for me. I can run it in the context of different users. In this case, I'm going to run it in the context of the calling user. And my execution order is 1. So this happens very, very early in the pre-validation pipeline. I can define when I want this to occur or what pipeline stage I want to use for this. I do this in the pre-validation phase because I don't want to start any processing if the value isn't divisible by 6. I can define whether it's synchronous or asynchronous, and for D365, it's always going, or I'm sorry, for online CDS, it will always be server, okay? And so this is for create. Now I also want this plugin to run for update, and so I do everything else the same, with the exception is that I change this to execute on the update message. Make sense? Sound good? And so, as you guys saw a few moments ago, if I turn around and create a cupcake request that's not divisible by 6, I get the error message, the request for X cupcakes is not divisible by 6. And so that is how we do plugins. Now, remember when we started, we talked about the 3 primary components of the Power Platform. We talked about PowerApps, including CDS. We talked about Power BI, and we talked about Flow. And so I want to conclude our session today by having a little bit of fun with Flow. And so, of course, Flow, through a series of connectors, is able to be triggered by Dynamics, and then it can take action. I'm sorry, well, Dynamics or CDS, they're all one and the same these days. And then, of course, it can take actions against Dynamics or CDS as well. And so, we have the following triggers: create, update, creator, update, deleted, as well as custom actions, I believe. And then we can take the following actions, which are create, update, read, list, or delete records. And so I wanted to show you a few examples of how we could use this in our cupcake application. Now, the first thing that we found was from our customers is they had concerns about, shall I call it, high latency when it came to us fulfilling these cupcake requests. And so what we wanted to do was provide a way where my wife and I could be immediately notified anytime one of our girls requested a cupcake. And so what we did is we created a Microsoft Flow for that. And so I'm going to open up my Flow definition, and we'll edit it so that we can see all the gory details. And so what this does is this looks at my demo environment, and it looks at the cupcake request entity. And so anytime a record is created or updated, it uses the Twilio connector to send a text message. And so it sends that from my Twilio number to this phone number that's totally not my phone number. And then it sends a text message, and it uses the description that we created earlier via a calculated field to say, hey, that thing has been requested. And so if I show you what this looks like, you may have noticed earlier, right after we created our cupcake request earlier, we'll see, hey, a yellow cupcake with chocolate Bavarian icing has been requested. Okay, so this helps improve our cupcake fulfillment SLA. But then as we got better at fulfilling these cupcake requests, we had another problem, which is we started having all these cupcake requests that maybe we didn't really want to fulfill. And so the other flow that decided to create was a flow approvals flow. And so what this does is when a record is created or update, it creates a flow approvals process. How many of you have worked with flow approvals before? Okay, so a few of you. What this allows us to do is actually take a look at the request and then determine whether or not we want to approve it or not. And so if I view this flow definition, this one's a bit more robust. So similarly, oh, I am so sorry. There we go. So don't worry. Wait, that's not right still. Let's try once more. Okay. So sorry about that. So when a record is created or updated, we watch the same organization name against the same entity, and then what we do is we kick off an approval process. And what we do is we say, hey, the title of the approval is approve the name of the cupcake request. We assign it to me. We then provide the details, which include the description of the cupcake request. And then what we do is we build a link to that particular item. And then we provide a link description for that. From there, once the approval step is done, we then look at the approval response and we determine if it's equal to approve. If the answer is yes, then what we do is we update that particular cupcake request to say that the approval status is yes. If it's not equal to approved, then what we do is we set the approval status to no. And so this allows my wife and I to go through and approve the cupcake request or not. I guess more specifically, it's only me because it only sends an email to me. And so if I go over to my Flow Approvals tab, we'll see here I have a flow approval that says, hey, approve Ignite post-session celebration cupcake request. It's for me. It was requested on this date. It has details, which are a description, a yellow cupcake with chocolate Bavarian icing. Here I have a link to my request record. If I click that, it will actually go through and take me to that specific cupcake request. So I can view all of those items that we entered earlier. And so I can choose to say, yep, approve it, or no, I'd rather not. So I'll go back over here and I can approve, and then let's eat. Actually, I should probably reject it since we aren't going to have cupcakes. Let's pretend. And so I'll confirm. And so at this point, the request has been approved. And so to recap what we've gone through today, we've talked about the common data service for apps, as well as the way we see people use it. We talked a bit about common and scenarios for the types of apps that people will build, whether those are customized first-party apps, whether those are satellite apps, or whether those are standalone apps. We've talked about the different flavors of instance types that you can use as your starting point as you choose your own adventure. We talked about entities and fields. We talked about relationships and option sets, calculated fields and roll-ups, business rules, forms, views, dashboards, charts, and apps, custom code with plugins, and then finally business logic with Microsoft Flow. So I hope you feel like you've had a lap of the platform today to help you understand how to build model-driven apps on top of CDS. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for your time.